wanted to die or get sober.
Jon Mendonca.
ADHD. I was a crackhead before I was a crackhead.
Do you remember waking up and finding out that your brother had taken his own life?
If I wasn't sober, I probably wouldn't be here when that happened.
When do you start abusing substances?
And I did that line and it was perfection. If I'm not messy, you don't know I'm drunk or high. I feel like $1 million. Took off. Started trafficking from like gang members, a bunch of drugs at 17.
Substance abuse, the Ox Contin, sports.
Yeah, I feel like a full letdown. My dad caught me. It was the first time I was honest. I'm addicted to heroin. Don't know how to stop. I hate my life every day. Shame and guilt. You'll try dope, coke, crack, and Xanax. We won't give God a shot.
How would you suggest an individual looks at this God principle in the 12-step community?
Welcome to Investing in Sobriety, the podcast where we explore life, recovery, and the process of rebuilding from substance and process-based addictions. This is a space for real conversations, real experiences, and the transformations that happen when we truly invest in ourselves.
Hey, welcome to Investing in Sobriety. My name is Derek Benson. I hope that you are making it a great day. Today, I have the honor and privilege to be sitting here with Jon Mendonca. Jon is a mental health and addiction advocate. He is a man in recovery. He has published a book called Life on Life's Terms. He is very active on social media with The Elevated Path and Recovery Jon on TikTok. We will put his links in the bio. Check him out. Jon, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on.
It's an absolute pleasure. We've had multiple conversations leading up to this, all very nutritious conversations. But for the individuals that don't know you, who is Jon Mendonca and what was his early childhood like prior to active addiction?
I would say, honestly, it was the kid you wouldn't think would be an addict. If you go before teens, even early teens, I was your normal kid, white picket fence, I say, like not a lot to complain about, middle class, baseball, God, and family. All the parents, friends, girlfriends' parents would call and just say, he's the nicest kid, so respectful. It's not who you would see robbing you or selling you drugs in a couple of years. Yeah, and then things just changed as the years went on.
At what point, I guess, in your early childhood, did you start to recognize like addict-like tendencies?
Probably, if you go really early, that there was always there, the ADHD. I was a crackhead before I was a crackhead. I always say that. There's videos of my family parties and you'd see me just like one of them. I remember my grandma's going around and it's just me like nonstop, like chasing her and getting my face in the camera, like bah, bah, and I was like making these noises. I was just very hyperactive. But the real bad addict tendencies didn't come till later. I was always like thinking of other people. So nice. Everyone, the one thing I heard my whole life is like, you have the greatest heart. And then about 12, 13, I saw my friend's dad pass away in front of me. We were playing paintball, beautiful fall day in the quarry, the woods near my house. And he tripped. I thought he like fell, so I laughed. He ended up dying instantly from his third massive heart attack. And I went from this kid that believed in God, life is good, everything is good, I'm going to be a Yankee one day, to, maybe I don't really trust God in life. Why would that happen? And the first negative addict tendencies I saw was anger. The years after that, I went from the nicest kid ever to, if I can't go to the sleepover, I'm gonna put my head through the wall or rip the door off the hinges and put my fist through it 30 times. And I think looking back in therapy, it's, I realized I didn't have control of life. Like anything could happen at any moment. And that really freaked me out. And I felt like I needed to, like, with anger, control it. Later on, I would find I could substitute that anger with pills or alcohol.
I understand. Were you put onto medication when you were younger?
At one point, I don't know the age, maybe 15. Got arrested. I think maybe it was 16. I got arrested for fighting with my dad, and they didn't know what was wrong with me. So the court made them test me for steroids, drugs, and ADHD, and everything came back clean, but I have strong ADHD. And so they put me on Adderall. My grades got better, but instantly my parents could tell, my teachers could tell, and I could tell something was off. Like, it worked, but I was just silent. I'd go to school and I was like the nice kid, the funny kid. I just wouldn't speak. My grade, because I was hyper focused. I was like cracked out all the time.
Right.
But so it worked in that sense, but I lost my personality. And there was like kind of helped a little with anger, but if I had anger, it would be an outburst. It kind of like honed everything in, and then I would explode. So really quickly they got me off that, and that was the only medication.
I see a lot of parallels with what you're explaining and my lived experience.
Mhm.
Our stories might be the same, they might be
Mhm.
different, I don't know. But what was manifesting behind this anger? Was it this event with your friend's father? Was it experiences in early childhood?
Mhm.
Where did that come from?
More and more. It was really the that incident with my friend's dad, and then beyond then, I just kept going through shit. So that was, say, 12, 13. I was at 8th grade. So I went into my senior year, and I was like, "Okay, like, try to let that slide, John. Like, just this is your baseball career. You're gonna set your stats up for college, and do your thing." And I just kept going through things. So my before my freshman year baseball practice to begin the season, I was jumping on a girl's trampoline. My friend double bounced me. I went high, landed on my ribs on the metal outline thing, and it didn't have the padding, and it ruptured my spleen. And that was like a near death thing. Went to the ICU. I was there for bleeding internally for a week. Got out one day, and my throat completely swelled. And they realized that's why my spleen was swollen and erupted, was because I had mono. But they didn't know that. So I got rushed back to the hospital, spent another week in the hospital, and they were testing me to the point where everything was coming back negative, but my throat was consistently closing. They were one day away from giving me a trach the next morning if the steroids and stuff didn't kick in. And my dad, they told me that, that was the first time he had cried in adulthood. They took him outside and said, "Your son might die. We don't know if he has a disease. Everything's coming back negative, but he's got a fever, his throat was shutting down." And thank God the next morning the meds kicked in, and then I finally pissed positive or whatever for a mono, and they realized that's what it was. So I just felt, and then after that in high school, my high school sweetheart, first time drinking, cheat on me, two of my friends. So I just felt like I have a good heart. I'm a good kid. I just want to play baseball because I love it and I want to get rich so I can help a lot of people. Like I didn't even care about myself money wise. And I was like, all I'm getting is like these heartbreaking situations. So I kind of almost felt like God or life was like I was dodging bullets,
Yeah, like you were getting dealt a bad hand.
over and over again.
I understand, and I've been there. And
Yeah.
it's very easy to fall back into that cycle of negative thoughts, that feedback loop.
Mm.
Do you remember the first time that you had put Adderall into your body and the effect that it produced on you?
Not really. I just remember it did work. Like things got quiet.
Okay.
So like the concentration did work, but there wasn't much else going on. I was just 100% locked in.
I get it. I get it. And that was my experience too. I think the interesting thing is I always liked the effect that the substance produced on my body as well.
Mm,
And then you get into that game of like leveling up from milligrams, right? A
mm,
10 is no longer good. Now you need a 30. Now you need the XR, but now Vyvanse, you start
mm,
playing that game. And that's, really the first experience that a lot of addicts I talk to have with like a mind or mood altering substances.
mm,
You're putting this m- not methamphetamine and amphetamine salt, I guess, into
mhm,
your body at a young age. It only seems logical to think that there's a biochemical reaction that's occurring.
mm.
I don't want to go too far down that wormhole, but when you're going through these experiences in high school, when do you start like abusing substances? Like what's your relationship with substances as you're going through high school and going through these, rather life-changing or traumatic
Mhm.
experiences?
It grew and changed a lot. So before the substances, Derek Jeter was my idol. So I was big. I hated drugs. I hated addicts. I hated addiction. I hated that my dad smoked cigarettes. Everything was very ignorant, but very like one way and clean cut. And then the anger got so bad that, you become a teen and say, hey, the guys start talking. We were the popular group. Let's get the girls, let's get a bottle, let's try alcohol. And we tried it and it was fun and it was cool. And really quickly, I started to take it too far. But I was just a kid, I wasn't drinking in the mornings. I wasn't going crazy, but I got that spiritual release I needed. It quieted the noise of the anxiety because looking back, from those moments, I have PTSD. So I was just waiting for the next shoe to drop. So when I would drink, I'm relaxed. And then the problem with drinking really quickly is I couldn't control myself. So every party, John, was a problem through high school. I beat someone up, bang someone's girlfriend, cry, make someone else cry. It was just does that really quickly. They're like, yo, you can't even come to parties anymore. Even though like you're the man and the big athlete, like you're just done. And my good friends, even though they partied, like they're becoming successful and athletes, they walked away. And, you know, it was always just the yets and I would never. Like, I would never smoke weed. So now I'm drinking and smoking weed. Ooh, that feels even better, but still messy. And then, we've talked it out. You know, I'm 36, so 2008 was my senior year. So my junior and a senior year, I got with the wrong friends, and, that's when opiates, the Oxycontin epidemic started. So I was in a room one day and guys pushed me and were like, "Oh, do this line, do this line." And I think I knew like alcohol's not working anymore. I'm getting too much. It's too obvious. I'm struggling. And I did that line and it was perfection. It was that feeling from alcohol that I needed or whatever. And I can control myself. I'm not messy. You don't know I'm drunk or high. And I'm beaming. I feel like $1,000,000. And from there it just took off.
Where were sports in this equation?
Ruined. Things just kept happening. So like I missed my whole freshman year because of the injury. I couldn't even go back to school because my spleen, I couldn't be around people. Like I couldn't get bumped into. So I homeschooled the rest of senior year with a tutor, or freshman year. Went back sophomore year, played, had a good year, I believe, if I recall correctly, and then it was just downhill from there. Junior year, I was already getting in trouble, so I failed off every team. They let me back on the beginning towards the end of my junior year, and me and my friend were coming from academic probation, and we were already kind of like selling a little in bad boys. In the first game, we beat the shit out of kid at second base, and I think I just knew at that point, like I've kind of thrown this away. Senior year, I promised myself everything was hitting. Like even my parents and even colleges that wanted me were like, You don't have stats. Like yeah, I've heard good things. You have some good film, but like, what are we doing with you?" And you know, my dad was like, "You're throwing away your entire life and your career with your grades and not showing up and partying." So I said, "Okay, senior year, let's lock it in. If I have one crazy year, I have a talent, I'll get somewhere, and even if I got to go D3, I know I'll work my way up." And everyone said, "Don't play football." Played football before the baseball season and broke my ankle the first game. And it was just again, that's where I said, "Fuck life, fuck everything. I'll figure this out." And things got weird quickly.
When you are graduating from high school, you graduated.
Yep.
Where are you at with your substance abuse, the Oxycontin, sports? Seem like they're kind of out of the mix at this point, but you're reflecting, and not to have a hindsight bias, but because we're looking at things through the lens now.
Mm.
But where did you see yourself going? Like, did you see yourself as a failure? Did you feel like you had let yourself down, or was it more so other people? What's going on in the full equation, senior year graduation?
Yeah, I feel like a full letdown. I let myself down, my family down. My family's would already joke, like some of my aunts, about the houses they were going to pick out when I made it to MLB. So I felt a lot of pressure, and it wasn't their fault. I put that on myself. Um, but there was this addict insanity of like, well, I'm still going to do it. Even at like 22 or 23, I'd be like, I'm going to figure this out, clean up, and like walk onto a sports team or something. But it was just that I was lost. I was lost. You know, you're a kid, you don't really understand life. A lot of trauma unhealed. I was just making up these stories in my head that I'll get back to it while time slipped away. Where was I with addiction? By the time of senior year, end of senior year, I was full blown addicted to Oxycontin. So if I didn't have it, I was dope sick. Between my junior senior year, I started trafficking lightly. So there was older kids that would either we did it down the road for ourselves, but at first they'd be like, "Yo, if you go to the city, get us these like thousands of pills, we'll cut you off a little bit." So on school nights, I would be in like College Point, Queens, or the South Bronx, grabbing from like gang members a bunch of drugs at 17 and telling my parents I was at my girlfriend's house and then going to school the next morning. And then about halfway through senior year, it was just a joke. I mean, they came and raided me and my friend who's now dead from overdose. Our locker is like, cops sat us down and interrogate us. So, you know, you're moving a big drug ring around here. Like me and about 5 other guys were moving most of the opiates in this area. You know, not proud to say that today, but it's just so quick. I mean, 2 years before that, I was like, "You're clean cut Derek Jeter. I'm gonna be the next Yankee. I hate drugs. I do everything the right way." To morals, values, just out the window. Lie about everything to my parents. Just honestly acting like a piece of shit.
I get it.
Yeah.
It makes me think of a quote that I heard when I was younger, and it's, hard work gets further than talent when talent doesn't work hard.
I like that.
And that's really that intersection of like junior, senior year, freshman, sophomore, that's like when you have like a 4-year window to really separate yourself
Mhm,
from the other individuals to really get to that next level, and then you kind of have to do that again. But
mhm.
um, what was this fast life providing you that you weren't getting in other parts of your life?
Well, I think it's when reflect about all of addiction, it's really that we don't have to look at what's in front of us, right? Like you said it perfectly on the phone earlier, the ritual. So I say this to people, it don't matter. They're like, well, no, I'm addicted to that. I don't care what you're addicted to. It's that you don't want to stop and look at your life and cope with life on life's terms. It's because like that making a call, where am I going to get the next money? Who's got it? Who's around? Now I get to sit here and chop it up. Then I get to snort it. That's what I'm addicted to, And sure, the scientifical, dopamine release, but I don't have to stop and look at my life. And when I got sober, that's what I realized. I was like, what do I think about or do now? Every second was applied to my addiction, whether it was who I was with, where I was going, money I got. And I think it kind of just made me ignore that, like, oh, you're throwing away what God put on your heart and the talent you were given. And I love that saying because I say that to everyone now. Like, I think my dad's saying got me sober and what made me really good because there was a lot of kids that were better than me naturally in the beginning. That he was always like, you want something great? Because he was not a kid. I'm gonna be a Yankee. And he'd support me, but he'd be the first one to say, "Nothing great comes easy, so I better see you work hard than anyone." And I'd be in my backyard in the snow with like, I don't even remember those like pitchback
Yeah.
machines. I'd be in the snow, pouring rain, ground ball, ground ball, ground ball for 7 hours. My parents would be like, "Dude, you have to come in and eat." And once I let go of that, everything crumbled, and there's nothing even to talk about. I was worthless. I didn't. It's all what you prove in life. So I didn't prove that. It kind of sucks now because I say I play softball and I'm nasty, and even my friends will say it. So it's like my brother used to say before he passed, like, "Damn, you should have." He was on my team. He's like, and I'll do this crazy shit at shortstop or hitting, and he'd be like, "You fucked up, man." But I guess I could say I have fun now. But yeah, it's just I didn't have to stop and really look at like I'm destroying everything.
And that window for every and any athlete,
Mm,
it's small,
yeah.
right? It's small, and a lot of it involves luck, timing. I
Mhm,
mean, I've seen such talented athletes, get injured, right? Like
mhm,
something that you just say, "Oh, play your sport," and you get an injury, and it's
mhm.
like it changes the entire trajectory of things.
Uh,
Where did the drug dealing, drug use, and like compulsion and habits surrounded around that take you?
to just dark places, places I never thought I'd end up. I love now. I hate it because I sound mad boring. But even like when I talk to people, I'm like, the things we heard as kids were so true. You show me your friends, I'll show you your future. So my friends were successful. Kids I was playing with did end up to be MLB players or work in that scene or just successful guys. And I chose a different route. And it took me to crack houses, trap houses, getting jumped, fighting people, doing things I never thought I would do. And it's so true. Like each decision, my morals went down a little. Like, I probably shouldn't go here. Nah, whatever, I'll do it. And now I'm okay there. And then I'm okay there. And I'm sure you can relate to the addiction of like, before you know it, I'm stealing change from my younger brother and my parents to pay for gas and dope bags. And it's like, damn, how'd I get there? It's so weird.
It is. It's a sick cycle to be trapped into. And knowing a little about your story, that cycle lasted for a good amount of time.
Mhm.
Can you walk us through that? Like you graduate, you're hustling, you're using. I also know that you were in and out of rehabs. Break
Mhm.
that process down.
It was just where they say it gets worse, never better. Like I kind of was cool in the beginning, like, making money selling. I was still good looking. Like you couldn't tell I was an addict. Like I had girlfriend or girls. My friends were still kind of around. My parents were like, something's up, but we're not going to press. And then you get to the point where like, all right, you're definitely an addict. The first time my dad caught me, or I got caught or had to admit it was that I got in a fight with my girlfriend. They had known for a while and asked, are things going on? Denial. And he just walked me in the garage and said, you have two options. Tell me exactly what's going on, and I got your back. I'll support you through it no matter what. If it's gambling, drugs, whatever. And if not, just pack your car and go live out of your car and have a good life.
How old were you?
23.
What'd you
And
do?
I just broke down. I started, I think, crying and just was like, bro, I'm addicted to Percocet at the time. I was like, don't really know how I got here. Some bad decisions. I was like, I can't get out of bed without it. And At that time, they walked me through Suboxone. They didn't know what to do. They're like, all right, we never dealt with an addict. We're going to figure out what to do for you. And our family friend was like, there's this doctor with Suboxone and it's a medication. And I got on that. It, got me to not put pills up my nose for a couple months. But it wasn't like today either. It was such a waste of time. There was no therapy. There was no 12-step. This guy gave me a bag of 30 subs and I just go medicate myself. And then I realized if I do a little bit more, I'll be a little high. So real quickly at the end, I just sold them and then got dope. But it just got worse. 7 arrests, 5 treatment centers, 7 trips to treatment. Looking back, it just kept going. And like there was times where then I was like moving a lot. And then there was times where addiction takes everything. Like Biggie said, don't get high on your own supply. So then I'm going from making $50 a pill to, like I said, stealing change from my parents or my brother or pawning stuff, Christmas presents. I always had a job throughout. My parents said, if you live here, you work. So I would have even 2 jobs because I don't know why. That was my justification. Like I don't steal, even though I take some change. Like some of my friends like robbing houses or doing that. So I would work 2 jobs. I'd make like 80 to 100,000 a year, but every dollar went to my addiction and still wasn't enough. And so it was just an endless cycle.
Looking back when you first received medical treatment with the Suboxone, what is one thing that you feel is missing from that space that could really help a person trying to actively seek recovery?
Changing everything. That the Suboxone won't do anything for you. That's the physical relief. That's not what needs to change. Is everything needs to change. So it is could be a good help physically. I think the biggest thing they've done now is sublicate shot. So I was very against Suboxone because I knew you're setting someone up for failure. Now they have to detox off of that. That's not going to go well most of the time. The sublicate shot, I believe from what I've read and learned, that it works itself out of you. So you don't have to go through a detox withdrawal process. So that's cool for the first month or 2, but changing everything. Like now looking, I didn't know what sobriety was. It was changing my fitness, my friends, my money income, my faith, the way I looked at things, how I handled problems, how I cope with life. That was everything. So that's why, sure, like I said, pills stopped going on my nose, but I was the same douchebag scumbag. Like I didn't learn anything about life, And I think today I've heard they are better with, if we're going to give you subs, you have to do therapy and 12 steps and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. My experience was Suboxone treatment, uh, 11, 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was at Rocky Hill Behavioral Health.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go there and I would get the subs. You had to do like a group meeting. It was like 30 minutes. You had to do a piss test and then you would get your subs. I do remember them coming back with my 3rd failed drug test and saying, hey, maybe you need a higher level of treatment. And I knew I needed that, but I convinced myself I had all these other things going on that were really important. And no, I didn't. It's crazy the ideas that manifest and that we create in our own minds in active addiction. I also, after I got out of prison, was on Vivitrol.
Mm.
And, I had to stay poor to stay on state insurance in order to get that shot because it was, at the time, the shot was like, I don't know, $1,000. It's like, hold on, the math ain't math in here, man. I just got out of prison. I'm like working this job. Like I was working construction. I was like, I remember getting an offer to get more money. And I was like, no, on paper, this isn't it's not going to quantify for me. So you have this experience with the Suboxone. You step back into active addiction. How long does that last before you land in your first rehab? Or had you been in a rehab prior? What's the design of like moving toward the recovery space to any degree?
Probably 2 more years, and then things got really bad. I found myself in like Waterbury, Connecticut, and the ghettos, and really bad situations. Things just got I knew at 26, I said, this is not. I'm gonna be dead soon or get sober soon. And that's when fentanyl, I think, started. So we didn't know it was fentanyl, but like everyone started dropping like flies. So it was like with heroin, I knew it was getting close, and it just wasn't fun anymore. It was really ugly, watching people cook crack near kids, bag up dope with like kids running around the house in the hood. Like it was just couldn't justify that I was just having fun or whatever anymore. And yeah, there was just a bad incident. And then that day, there was a shooting at a house next to the one I was in. So obviously just set off a little bit of the PTSD again. I came home and that was the day my mom wanted to ask at 26, are you struggling again? And I just broke down. I went to my first rehab in Miami, detox rehab. They took us to some meetings. Didn't do a lot of like deep dives. While we ran our own groups. I was a president. Remember they're like, we're voting president. I was like, which one of us crackheads should be a president of anything? And then they voted me, and I was like, brand new. I was like, why are you guys voting me? I was like, I was literally smoking crack in Waterbury last week. So that was interesting. And I came home and relapsed the first day. They didn't talk about the solution a lot. It was people, places, things, which I believe in the first 90 days. But I was like, at 26, I want to go to a bar again. Like, you're telling me that I'm just gonna go relapse anyways. So I did. And then it was just a cycle, do good for a couple weeks, get high for another year, get put back in detox, do only detox. I just tried to piecemeal my sobriety. I wouldn't do like the full thing. And then at 28, I got fully sober. Just my lungs were wheezing from heroin. Couldn't be worse. I got arrested in New York, and I had warrants in Connecticut and New York on top of that. I was facing a minimum of 4 years. And the judge told me, he snapped on me. He was like, you think it's a fucking joke? He's like, you're facing 4 years. You don't even show up for court. You have bench warrants in every state. He's like, you just keep getting arrested with more drugs and more occurrences. And I was kind of like, what do I do here? And it was the first time I was honest. A room full of people. I just blurted out, man, I'm addicted to heroin. I don't want to be here. I was like, I don't know how to stop. I can't figure out how to stop. I hate my life every day. He said, I'm going to give you an opportunity to change your life. If you go to treatment, come out and do all of the stuff I give you and continue to be clean and get notes for being clean, I'll give you that one shot. If I see you again, I'll put you in jail for 10 years. And I went to rehab and stayed sober for 7 months. But that's when I finally learned 12 steps, meetings, prayer. This place really dove deep into what sobriety looks like, not just having us hang out for 30 days.
I always joke around because recovery really is a way of life. It really is.
Yeah.
When you said this to the judge, did you just want to get the fuck out of the courtroom, or did you really hit like a bottom where you really wanted help?
No, I wanted to die or get sober, one or the other. I just wanted to get off the merry-go-round. I wasn't suicidal. I was just tired. I think I tell everyone, when you say you're tired, you're about to get clean, because it wasn't fun. I didn't want to fight anymore. I didn't want to do any of that. I remember my mom, I was 28. My mom was driving me to Brewster Court and taking off of work. Like, I'm looking at all these thugs, which I was one of them, and just being like, I don't want this life anymore. So it was more of tired and desperation, to be honest.
I understand. It's interesting because we talk about God, and for a little while I used God as gift of desperation. And it's interesting because addiction really absorbs so much of your time and energy. And I don't like to say, real addict, not a real addict, whatever, wherever you fall on the spectrum. Trust me, like, we're not getting fucking accolades for having like higher bottoms,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, if we use the term real addict, a lot of people I know, it consumes every aspect of their being. They are literally a slave, everything that they do is fixated around that process of getting and using. And I've lived that gift of desperation. But you relapsed. Are you relapsing with the pills, fentanyl, heroin at this point? What's the design of like your substance abuse after you get out of this courtroom?
So after I got out of the courtroom, I stayed sober for 7 months, did 12 steps, whole life got better. And then I thought like, I'm not really an alcoholic. So 2018, I never went back to opiates. When I decided to drink one day with a girl, I was on a date, maybe felt a little pressure, like dating early sobriety, embarrassed I'm sober, but also was justifying that I'm not an alcoholic. I just did dope for all those years and some crack, and felt good that I was never going to do it again. It just wasn't even enticing. All my friends were dying, and picked up a drink. And the first day I did, I took my dad's car. I was so drunk I thought it was mine. I crashed into the garage, a Jersey barrier, poured a bottle, it was a brand new car, poured a bottle of Crevassier in it and cocaine. And that destroyed, my dad and myself. So I decided to move to Yonkers, and I just did alcohol and coke for like a year, just stringing together a week, and then relapse, 2 weeks, relapse, but not doing anything different, just white knuckling, like they call it. And that would go on until I got sober.
Were you speedballing?
Not exactly, but yeah.
Come up, come down. You're playing that game.
Technically, yes.
Okay, because I find it interesting because you go from crack and fentanyl to alcohol and coke,
Yeah, I love to play doctor.
right?
Yeah.
Right. It's like,
How high can I get? How low can I get?
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then you move to Yonkers, and what's going on inside of you?
Just a lot of shame and guilt. You know, I built everything up at that point. I'd made amends. My brother and my parents were proud of me, or beginning to be. My family was proud. I'd gotten in shape at that point, started to save a little bit of money and fix my credit. And I tore it all down with one night. So it was a lot of just dark times, dark times. And
So when you say you got involved with 12 steps, like you actually did the program.
I killed it. Everyone like couldn't imagine. They're like, "There's no way you relapse. Like you're what do they say calling it? Like you're on fire. Like you're speaking
Yeah.
in meetings, you're running meetings." I literally was spiritually well. I was recovered. I just threw it all away. I just stopped doing the work and stopped going to meetings for like maybe a month before the relapse, and stopped helping people and stopped giving back and stopped praying. Like I just slowly started taking apart my recovery program.
I'm always interested because, obviously we have this hindsight bias and we can look at it through this lens because, we haven't hit the real rock bottom, which is 6 feet deep, in my opinion.
Hmm.
But did you see the manifestation of the drug use and thoughts, or was it more actionable things that you just weren't doing that you did before?
A mix of both. I stopped doing the actionable, and then the thoughts came up of the manifestation of like, well, maybe I could have a drink. Oh, I'm cheap now. I could drink. Like, oh, I'm young. I could drink. And then I wasn't in those meetings and around people to say, no, you can't. And that grew and grew. And there was also a big resentment growing at the time. I had an uncle that was like losing his mind with alcohol and drugs. Instead of being of service, you know, I slowly planned to take him out or something. He like threatened my aunt, and it was a very ugly divorce. And I don't know why. It was an ego thing. I thought I had to handle it. And so between that and then me and my brother went through a tornado in Connecticut, it was literally like God setting it up because I wasn't doing my stuff. And I got to a point where I just said, okay, I'm gonna drink, and it's terrible.
So then what happens? You're in Yonkers, you're using, what's that progression look like?
It was very frustrating. I would try so hard. Like I said, I would run in the streets, pray, get a good 2 weeks down, and then like I was bartending in one of the biggest places in Westchester, and everyone be like, "Yeah, no drinks tonight, Johnny. Okay." By the time I got my money at the end of the shift, I was like, "All right, let's have drinks." And you going to bed at 10 a.m. again, and then I would do it for like like maybe another week or two, and I'd be like, "All right, this has got to stop." Get sober, and it was just that cycle of relapse, and I was like, "This is terrible." And finally, one day, a bad night, I said I wouldn't drink, and I just made a video of this yesterday. It's like you have a problem if you plan your third drink, right? So I went out. I'm not gonna drink. I'm not drinking tonight, but I'm going out. And then before we get to the bar, all right, I'll have one. I'll have one. And then while I'm ordering my first, I'm like, all right, I'll have 3 or 5. Like the normal person is just having their drink. Like I'm already trying not to get past 5, but planning 3 to 5. And it was a terrible night. I don't really know exactly what happened. I woke up, all my knuckles were bloody. Naked girl next to me. I don't know if I pissed the couch. Just a disaster. And that was I chose that as my rock bottom. I was just like, I've proven to myself I can't do this safely. And as we joked about earlier, I had like, all right, I qualify. I'm alcoholic now. Fine. I'm in the club. So now I can do AA or NA. And I was like, I'm very good at fucking up, and I'm very good at reflecting and never doing it again. So I fucked up so hard for a year. I looked back and said, well, what worked? You had perfect 7 months of life. Do the steps, do these changes. You'll be fine. So I said, time to go back. And when I walked in this time, I said, all right, 1 year. If everything's not better in a year and I'm not happy, I'll just go back to using and end it that way. And obviously I'm still here, thank God. So it worked out pretty well.
At what point did you go to rehab? Like, because I know that you went to rehab, but at what point in this story?
The alcohol, I never went back. So,
Okay.
because it was only alcohol, and I wasn't like physically dependent. I'd been to so many that like I already knew I can go to 12 steps
Okay.
and get my shit together. I was really a binge drinker badly with Coke. I would bartend, work all day, and then just go for a day. And then I'd stop for a day and then do it again. So it was just letting go of that, like they call it the peanut allergy. People with peanut allergy just don't eat peanuts. I just had to be like, yo, this shit don't work for me, and do the work.
What happens after that moment of realization for you?
I just kind of I made a decision. I think like they say in the steps, I don't think I realized, but in my mind I said I made the decision. I'm going to give my life to God and a higher power and 12 steps and just be of service to people. A big thing I learned is why I do what I do today is when I got those 7 months, I was at step 12 when I stopped going to meetings. So I should have been helping and that could have kept me sober forever. And I went to try to go make a bunch of money and find a wife. And that's where I relapsed. So I reflected on all that and said, well, do it all over again. When you get to step 12, continually help people the rest of your life and you should be okay. And so far, that's worked.
For the many people that battle this God idea,
Mm,
for me, it was gift of desperation. Yeah, I had a lot of different acronyms, but for me, I just realized that I wasn't God. And when I'm living in selfishness and self-will,
mm,
I am the center of the universe. I'm the
mhm,
only thing that matters is getting and using whatever, Benson wants, Benson fucking gets.
mhm,
And I would justify that to myself. Now, maybe you had a different relationship with your higher power, but you also were deeply rattled at a young age with
mhm.
this God idea. How would you suggest an individual looks at this God principle in the 12-step community?
I would say pretend you're dumb. Like I had to tell myself, like I'm not that. I had a mentor that always said, "You're not that important." So just pray to the universe, man. He's like, just pray. If you believe there's something and you don't know, it's okay not to know. Because I struggled. We're a lot the same. Like we talked about is like I need to know like what it is. It has to be organized. I need to know the answer. So I really struggled with like I don't know God. So when Jesus walks in this room, I'll believe. You know, and they're like, it doesn't. That's the opposite of faith. So I really struggled with faith. And I could believe, like I believe that there's got to be something, whether it's science, Jesus Christ, Muhammad, there's something, but I couldn't figure out what. So without figuring out, I couldn't have faith. And so they thankfully slowed me down and they said, it's faith, man. And I would say just, I got on my knees and prayed. And since that day, I haven't had a craving for alcohol or drugs. And it's been 7 years. And that's what I said. I don't know what you are, but please help me stay sober. And I want to let you into my life and do good. I still don't know what God is. I don't like to go against him, but when I talk to him, I'm gonna ask him, "You didn't have to make it so hard for us," and I'm sure he's got a lot of those to me, but really struggled with the idea of God, and today someone just asked me yesterday that had, like, 2 weeks sober, and I said, "I don't have an answer for you," but it's been proven to me that something's there listening, and when I do the right thing and ask for help, I get the answers, whether it's the answer I want or not, but it does take care of me. So just to be open-minded.
I completely agree, and I have similar conversations with people in recovery. Sometimes I look at just praying as like a meditation, and I'm not
Mhm,
talking like Johnny Kumbaya, like I got a like meditation pillow. I'm saying just taking 10 minutes to yourself, putting your
mm,
phone down, going outside, listening to the birds,
mm,
have some positive affirmations. That can be a meditation. You're taking time to yourself just to like get grounded, like look at a tree, listen to a bird, see nature, whatever it
mm,
is. And I've seen a lot of people get those answers through action. And
mm,
I have a buddy that does hiking, right? I have one buddy that says it's so simple. If you think that you're going to come to the final conclusion of God,
mm,
something that nobody on the planet has ever done, right?
yeah,
Talk about belief. You're going to catch yourself jammed up because no one has this answer. You have the answer. It's what works
mm,
for you, right? And
mm.
for me in early recovery, it was a lot of different things, but I knew the energy in the 12-step community, in Refuge, and in these other communities. I was like, we as a team, my circle of influence, we can send ripples through the world because
Mm,
I feel the energy that they're giving me. And it was something that just manifested over time because I stuck around, and I see a lot of people struggle with that idea or say fuck a 12-step community because they're like, oh, these are just a bunch of holy rollers, or they said the Lord's Prayer. And it's like the fact that someone's saying the Lord's
mhm.
Prayer bothers you says more about you than them. Like, I don't
Yeah,
say the Lord's Prayer. I
yeah,
I don't say it. I do not, classify myself as a Christian.
mm,
But you know what I do? I say the Serenity Prayer 2 or 3 times.
yeah, mhm,
And at a certain point in that prayer, it says, "the wisdom." right? The wisdom. So it's like, it means I don't have it, right? So
Yeah.
just like grant me the wisdom. And, there's a lot of humility that I think that could be learned around that God idea. And honestly, if it saves your fucking life,
Yeah.
try it.
I,
Just try it.
I say that to people because I mean, with millions of views a year and people reaching out and comments, the biggest thing with addicts is, and I saw it with myself in the beginning, I was like, "Well, I want to hear about God, man." And I had my sponsor now who sat next to me, and I was struggling. He kept saying pray, and I kept relapsing. And I was probably doing everything else, and I wouldn't do the higher power part. And he was like, "What do you struggle with so bad?" And I was like, "This the God thing, man. I don't like giving my life to something I don't know what it is." And he said, "If I put any line in front of you, you'd snort it faster than anyone who try it." He's like, "But it says, like you said, it says a lot about you, John, that you won't try praying. You'll try dope, coke, crack, and Xanax. We won't give God a shot." And that was the problem. The open-mindedness was my failure. And today I'm like you said, I'm open-minded to Buddha, to any type of religion. I'm very open, but I believe there's something and I put my heart in it. And like my sponsor said, it's not that serious. He's like, can you spin the universe and the world? I said, no. He's like, so it ain't you. You ain't God. He's like, so just look to whatever you could believe it is and works for you. And that worked a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful when you see people have that moment of realization that
Mhm.
there's so many people that are involved in the recovery space that have these common ideas that all just align in different ways. And so that was why I was so fascinated to sit down with you, is because while you're in a 12-step community, you started noticing gaps in other parts of your life. Can you
Mhm.
walk us down that path?
Absolutely. So I think it taught me a lot about faith, a lot about self-inventory, the decisions I was making and the repercussions they were having, how I affect others. It taught me about so much in life, and it got me sober and kept me sober. But I started to realize, like, wait, there's a lot more at 28. I had no girl, no degree, no future, no career. I couldn't even walk a full room without being out of breath because the way I snorted heroin messed with my lungs at the time. So it's like I have a lot more to fix, and like it's cool. I put down the drink. I have 8 months, but now what? And I started to get big into fitness, and then reading about, obviously now it's all anyone talks about, the benefits and the positive and how you can rewire your mind and your brain. So I got big into fitness and started to see, like, okay, I felt through the 12 steps 70% good. Now I feel 80 with fitness. And then I got into meditation and stuff, which it does talk about, but like actually learning meditation. Now I feel 90. And then I was like, wait, I have no career. And then I started to work on where I fit in the world and making money. And like now I feel 100%. So I just realized that the gaps were kind of nutrition, all these other things that we should probably learn about without overdoing it. But one thing at a time, I started to learn mindset, fitness, nutrition, meditation, actual therapy. And it kind of like completed the puzzle for me.
You were in 12-step and doing therapy, or let's take a quick snapshot. You're at about 2 years in recovery.
Hmm.
What's the design of your mental, physical, spiritual equation? Is it just 12-step? Had you gotten into the gym? I want to dissect that and understand that a little better, because we put down the substance, we get sober, we're learning to live a life in recovery. And this is where I feel a lot of people can learn lessons through one another, because, we share our experiences. So year 1, year 2, year 3, can you kind of give me some benchmarks or certain things that you're doing to actively navigate recovery?
Yeah, I mean, before it was recovery, John, my whole brand or thing I was trying to express to people was what me and my parents called the Get Lifted. It was my first LLC. So it was Get Lifted spiritually, mentally, physically. And it was kind of, I feel like, the answer to life that I learned that I was looking for. I called my sponsor at 6 months sober, and I was like, this shit sucks. And he's like, what now, John? I was a disaster. And he was like, I was like, no, I'm just fucking miserable. I'm bored, not fulfilled. That's great. I don't drink, but it sucks. And he's like, well, what'd you do today? And I was like, why you asking me what I do today? I said, this shit sucks. And I told him, and I was like, I woke up, had Pop-Tart, Snapchat this girl, some shirtless pics, played a little Call of Duty. He starts laughing, and I was like, what's funny? I just told you I'm a relapse. And he was like, bro, you expect to be happy? So he explained this thing called a spiritual bank account to me. And he was like, people manage their money, but they don't know how to manage their spiritual wellness. So he was like, look at it as if you pray, you get $10. You work out, you get $10. You go to a meeting, you get $10, so on and so forth. And I was like, now that I could work with, because I need to, like, same with the God thing. I need to see visual. And I started doing that, and that's what I wanted to share with the world. It was not so much even, I mean, I've helped as many non-addicts as addicts. It was that, how to take care of yourself. So I started a program, and every moment I had was going into rebuilding who John was from 8 months on. I did the same thing every day for like 2 years. I woke up, prayed, meditated, read an AA book, like a reading. I had a coffee. I worked out in my parents' basement. I boxed at a heavy bag. I made a smoothie. I ran 6 miles. I listened to motivational videos on YouTube, so on and so forth. And I felt like unstoppable spiritually, mentally, physically. And a guy always says, how free do you want to be? And that depends on how much work you're going to do. And that's how the next couple of years went. Therapy didn't come, which I still do now. That came after 2 years after my brother passed. I started grief therapy, and then just did a bunch of therapy into, my childhood, and now I use it just for day-to-day stuff. But that's how those years looked. We're just rebuilding John.
You had mentioned that your brother passed.
Hmm.
I don't want to fast forward too much, but I don't know when in recovery he did.
2 years.
So okay. Did you have the opportunity to make amends? Because you did amends one time. Did you redo amends, or what was that process like? And then lead me into your brother passing, and what was that like?
I mean, that was humbling to redo your amends. It kind of felt stupid, to be honest, but my sponsors were strict, and mentors like, you have to do this. So it was a new line in the sand. Like, I won't do this again. I did get to make amends with him. He took time. So it was about 2.5 months when he passed. So, the first year he was just waiting and seeing. He was always cool. He never beat on me for it. He'd retract from my life to let me be a disaster. But I could tell he was observing. He was like, when's this shit show going to start again? But he was there and he was cool about it. And then after year 1, he really locked in. I mean, I started doing like hikes with him, taking him to Yankee games. He played on my softball team, which he never did. So we started creating core memories and like really having that life and that, relationship that was slowly growing, but he had his own struggles. And yeah, I mean, the night he took his life, he was supposed to come to his first 12-step meeting that morning with me. He knew he was struggling mentally and with alcohol a little. And he got in a fight with his girlfriend at 4 a.m. and took his life. And I don't think I would be sober. I know I wouldn't be sober if I didn't get to make those memories and that amends with him.
That's deep.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember vividly waking up and finding out that your brother had taken his own life?
Yeah, it was probably the worst way it could happen. So I thought he was coming back. He was in Norwalk at his place with his girl. We lived in Danbury, like 30 minutes away in Connecticut. So I thought he was coming back to go to the meeting with me, and the doorbell rang. And I don't know why. It's just when you get sober and do it for real, you get really in touch with like your spirit and like life. And I feel like I can sense when things are about to happen. And when the doorbell rang, I just knew. Like my nervous system went off. I went into shock. I ran, and it was the cops, and it wasn't him. Yeah, and they had told me it was a kid I went to high school with. He was a little older than me, but he was like, John, you need to talk to your dad, or your parents. And my dad came around the corner, and that was the worst scene I've ever seen in my life, was to watch your parents, be on their knees on the front lawn, and myself, and then to think, I was like, oh, he definitely crashed his car. He had a sick Challenger. He was reckless. I knew something was coming soon, that he probably wouldn't make it. That's why I was pushing him to get help, and he was slowly asking. But it just sucked even more when you found out someone does that on purpose. You know what I mean? That really took a toll on my parents and myself.
What'd you do that day?
So I stay sober, man. I helped my parents get inside. They sat on the couch, obviously a wreck, and I did my Get Lifted program as much as I could. Not much of it, but I went directly in my room, got on my knees. I'll never forget, closed the door, I was crying. I just asked God, like, I need to stay sober through this. I just heard all of the things I heard from my mentors, that like, no more poor me. Don't make this a John thing. Because old me would say, oh, John, this is so bad. Give me some dope and some Jack Daniels. Like, I'll fix it. Like, then I would have made it harder on my family. And that's why I'm tough today. I mean, girls I date, friends, whatever, they'll tell you, like, I don't hold back, because I needed to hear the tough things that saved my life when those moments hit. wasn't poor John. Yes, it was a bad moment and something terrible and my deepest fear probably in sobriety next to death. But it was, how can I be of service? You know, my parents are going to need me. I'd made amends. I meant it this time to my brother. So even though he's not here, I told him I wouldn't do that to him or my parents. In sobriety and praying right there, I don't know. That's God to me. There's no way I could stay sober through that. And I stayed sober. I said his eulogy. I was there for my parents. And thank God, because of sobriety, I had friends that didn't leave my side for 2 weeks. Like the first week I was in bed. You know, that moment I was in shock. They had to give me Benadryl like an hour later because my body was in shock a little bit. But my friends didn't leave my side. And it's something you gain from sobriety, that you become a dog, you know? I knew I was fucked up, but I knew I was going to get out of it. I was like, I've been through shit before, so one day at a time. And 5 days I couldn't get out of bed. Day 6 I could get up and get a snack. Day 7 I can go get my suit for the funeral and come back and sleep all day. And then the day of his wake, I went and started my program again. I worked out in the heat, ready to faint. I prayed, I meditated, and I worked my way back, you know, as I healed from that.
Did that experience become a foundation of you staying sober?
Yeah, I think for my family, you know, I knew that I couldn't put them through that again, you know. And what sucks for them is they were ready, my parents said, for my funeral. They weren't ready for his. He was successful. He really closet, probably alcoholic or battled with stuff. He didn't show anything. He was the life of the party. He was a great guy, never caused problems. So that was a shock to my family, and I took it serious. I mean, that's where I dedicated the book to him a year later. And a lot of things I do now, I sit and laugh because I know he gets to see it, but it's just like, damn, if he was here, I'm sure he's looking down laughing, you know, because he came in when I started to write the book during COVID in my room one time. I was like 6 months sober, or a year sober, and he came in. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Writing my book." And I was mapping it out on notebooks. And I'll never forget him looking and be like, "Ah, you're fucking high again." And he walked away. And he had the right to believe that, you know? So I'm sure now it's just weird signing autographs or saving people's lives with treatment and stuff. It's a great feeling that like he could look down, and I know he'd be proud. So I do a lot of it for him.
I think the most challenging part of all this is when someone arrives at the space where it's either suicidal ideation or the actual act. One can make the argument that it's literally the most selfish thing they could do, but also they're so stuck in that cycle that they can't see things through that lens. And when you're playing with these ideas, things can happen and come to fruition fast. And the consequences are death. Do you think that Jon actually wanted to die, or do you feel as though maybe he was just in a deep emotional state of confusion?
50-50. Like he definitely was having the ideas, you know?
Yeah, sorry. I said Jon.
My brother,
Tyler.
yeah. Tyler. Yeah, no, I think it's 50-50. I think because his friend opened up later that he took his gun away from my brother a year before. He had told his friend, he actually saved his friend that was in the military that was having suicidal ideations. They lived together, kind of. And supposedly his friend said, your brother really helped me and took my gun away from me, helped me mentally, and then gave it back. And I guess one night they were drinking and he was like, I kind of think about it too. And he's like, I'm going to take your gun. And now that you took mine. And so he had been thinking about it, obviously. Made a couple drunk threats to me one time, but he was a man of not a lot of like deep thought. And I respected that in him. He'd just be one day you call him. One day he was supposed to come to a softball game, and I called him to make sure he'd be on the head count on the roster. And I'm like, oh, you're going to be there tonight? He's like, oh, fuck. I'm like, what? You work in the city. It's in Connecticut. He's like, I'm in Maryland right now. I just left to go see our cousin and go to a baseball game. Like he would just live. So I think it was a moment of that fighting at 4 a.m. with his girlfriend. Like you said, you've already been thinking about it. Enough emotions. Fucking, I'm going to do it. And you can't take that back. And addiction or suicide, I stress getting help because, you know, things can get ugly really quick. So even me, if I wasn't sober, I probably wouldn't be here when that happened. You know, so prepare yourself for life so that you can cope with life. You know?
Life on life's terms.
That's where it came from.
Lead us into the book and kind of like this transition after your brother died, recovery, where you at, growth, mentally, physically, spiritually.
Yeah, I mean, worked my way back up. I knew I had to be in meetings, taking care of myself, therapy, working my Get Lifted spiritual bank account program. Didn't know how to write a book. And I read 0 books to that date. Even through high school, I never read a book. I graduated high school by 1 paper, so I was pretty degenerate. And then God speaks through people to me. So everyone was saying, write a book, write a book. And it's weird that I stopped writing the book before he passed. So remember I said he saw me writing it? I guess writer's block. I was like, God does not want, I don't have anything else to say. God doesn't want me to write this book. And I felt there was more coming. And sadly, that was probably it. So I just got to work. I thought about recovery. I got sober by people that got sober. So let me find someone that wrote a book. High school friend wrote a book about like productivity is a genius or something else. But I was like, you wrote a book. Just tell me how to write the book. And he was like, well, you could publish through Amazon, da-da-da. So I started reading books and self-help books, which I already had been in sobriety a little bit. So I made sure I finished them all, got an idea of how I wanted to write it. Boom, wrote it, published it. It went #1 new release in sobriety the same week that Brandon Novak's book came out, or right before it. And I was amazed, and it opened a lot of doors for me, I've been rolling since, and, TikTok, social media, the podcast. The book was kind of like the resume I never planned a business. I was trying to help people when I started posting. But I knew it'd come to a point where I could work 9 to 5 and just help a couple people. Or I prayed for 3 years before this, and God showed me a way to make money the right way. So I felt weird taking money, the whole 12-step stuff. But I had a sponsor that was like, the world is not AA or NA. Like, you don't need, like, therapists get paid. So thank God it all worked out. And, today I get to help a lot of people. My recovery is strong. In my life, I cry or laugh because of gratitude, because, I forget how far I've come. And it's like, people still ask me even on TikTok Live, they're like, is it better now? I literally just start laughing in their face. And it's not being funny. It's like, is it better? Like, I spent my days dope sick. Today I'm sitting here, everyone's at work, and you and me are on a podcast in the middle of I think it's a Wednesday. You know what I mean? I don't even know what day it is. Like, it's like I have a life beyond my wildest dreams.
4.5 years sober. That's when the book came out. Yeah.
2,
roughly?
3, 4. Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
So around that period, you are now 7 years sober?
As of March. Yeah.
Since releasing your book, what has changed in your recovery equation?
Honestly, there's been times where I got too laxed. I wouldn't say I'm lucky I haven't relapsed, because I never get that far away. But now today is balancing success or dreams and life and the blessings with staying just a dope fiend that needs to stay sober. It's a weird balance for me today. Like, God's given me so much that there's times like, damn, my sponsor calls like, yo, you haven't been to a meeting in a month. And I'm like, I should probably go to a meeting, and then I'll lock in, be really good with all that. And then a lot of blessings, and schedule is busy. But thankfully it's been really cool. And I don't want to say this to someone in early sobriety, but people in later sobriety or people in early should know that where I don't need meetings like that. I don't need, you know what I mean? I don't have cravings. A lot of my focus, we experience, what's Tony Robbins say? We experience what we focus on. So my focus today is helping people, making money. I want to build a family. Like, it's a great part about it. So you don't have to be in a meeting 7 days a day. I don't have to be. Some people do. But it's great when I could still hit a meeting and see the guys that saved my life, or my sponsees that I've helped. And it's learning, fitness, meditation, prayer, journaling, and the things that help me cope with life today.
Absolutely. It's very interesting you say that, because I read a book in early recovery, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Mm.
And it provided me something that conceptually I was living, but I didn't realize through a 12-step community. And like the God idea, I need to attempt to the best of my ability to connect all the wires. And he lays out this idea, and think of 3 concentric circles. So you have your primary circle, right, which is your circle of control. That's everything inside of you that you can control. Sometimes I can't control my thoughts, but I can control my actions. And we try to balance that, right? You talk about community, friendships, sponsorship. that's the second circle, our
Mm,
circle of influence. Who are we surrounding ourselves with?
mm.
When we were active, let's be honest, we weren't necessarily aligning ourselves with people that were trying to enrich themselves on a mental, physical, or spiritual basis, right?
No, yeah.
And then the outer circle is your circle of concern.
Mm,
And that's like the weather, politics. And you see people, I see people who are disgruntled in a 12-step community in recovery. They're so focused on like what's happening in Gaza
mm,
that they're not thinking about the way that they're showing up for the people in their lives or even for themselves, right? Like
yeah.
get out of that article and go to the gym. And we all can fall victim to that. So I
Mm,
know I need to take that energy away from that outer circle. Go invest in myself right now.
yeah.
Go invest in myself. One of the things that I really would like to touch on is how have you maintained your, let's say your circle of control, your circle of influence, your circle of concern? How do you navigate that in active recovery today with all these things that are going on?
Very careful about who I put in my circle. My circle is very small. If you're not benefiting me or I'm not helping you and you're taking the help, you're not around me. Being very regimented. I'm very routine, like you said, like gym, prayer, meditation, my therapy twice a week, journaling, the rooms I put myself in, staying spiritually fit is everything for me. You know, that's why I like Tony Robbins. Like he talks a lot about everything is being prepared energy wise. If I was up late last night, like dicking around doing some dumb shit, I wouldn't be here spiritually connected to pour into this podcast, and work the whole rest of the day till late in the night or something. So it's really making sure my battery is charged. It's that simple. If it's charged, I'm good, and if it's not, I'm gonna get weird and shit's gonna get weird. But like you said, I mean, it's so important. Today is all distractions. The Bible talks about you gotta have heaven on earth, and heaven inside you, but you can't do that when you're looking at Facebook. And I had a joke the other day, or the war, or this, or things that you don't control. Like I said, my biggest thing someone said to me earlier, "Surprise, you're not that important." And then when I got my first sponsee, he said, "You're that important to help one person." And I was talking to my aunt the other day, and we're looking at like a town's Facebook page, and these people, oh my God, let me not be too judgmental, but like I want to like save them. Like they're talking about like someone moved my garbage, or did you hear the beeping down the road, or like this Electman that, and that's the thing. It's like you're being distracted instead of making your own heaven on earth and going to the gym, praying, meditating, being good to the people around you. There's these things to distract you, and you're stressed out about like literally we started reading them and laughing, and someone's like, "There's police at CVS. Does anyone know what's happening? What do you care? If I'm not dodging a bullet, I just want my little bubble here to be happy. Like I don't need to worry about this." And people do that probably because they don't want to look inside, but it's just making sure I'm okay here. I'm good for the people around me, and I show up to what I say I'm gonna show up to, and that's really it.
That resonates deeply with me. And I think it's fascinating because some of those people might come across your TikTok, which has been widely successful.
Mm.
Lead me into that. You're in COVID, and what's manifesting inside of you that leads you to, pull up TikTok and start ripping reels?
Well, it was mid-COVID, and in 1 week, 3 friends died from overdose. So beyond like world pandemic, I'm 1 year sober, 3 friends, and the last one was like my best friend. Like that one's really what took me. I felt relapse coming. I was like, this is a lot to swallow for anyone, let alone 1 year sober. So I called my sponsor, said I'm probably gonna relapse. Like this is heavy, man. And he said, pray on it and be of service. And I did that on a run, and it all clicked. Like I could feel where people are that don't get sober. You don't want to embarrass yourself and tell your family. You don't want to go to rehab. A meeting seems weird. How do I say I'm an addict, an alcoholic the rest of my life? So I was like, I need to take away that stigma for people. And this is before content creators. And even when I started this, TikTok wasn't even blowing up. It was like later in COVID, it blew up. Um, I posted online just a cracked out shirtless picture of me. Literally on that run, I took like a shirtless pic and flex to prove to people. I knew if I said I was sober, people wouldn't believe it. Like I was known around here for he's not a good person. He's an addict. And then I just wrote, I'm an alcoholic addict. If you need help, please reach out. I'll do whatever I can to help you. I've been sober a year and a half. And I was like, maybe one person will reach out. And I mean, it was just Facebook and Instagram at the time, and it blew up. I had teachers, friends from my basketball team, everyone asking for help in some way or another. So for free, I was just grabbing people and getting them sober. And then a girl put me on a TikTok, and I was like, I don't know. And I sucked at it. I remember her, a girl I dated, and she was like, bro, your TikToks are terrible, for being nice and funny. But I was learning, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I just kept posting. And today we reach around like 50 million a year at least. Some years, but 90 million. And it's just educating. It's just a conversation people don't want to have. It's telling my story and making people feel not alone. And a lot of people reach out for help.
How does that contribute to your recovery?
It's weird. So now it's become a business with money in it. It definitely helps, but I have to be very careful. To be honest, it also drains me. You give so much of yourself. Like at first it was a couple calls, so I take them. Now I have a call center of addiction counselors that do my calls for me, because as one person, I can't take 50 calls a day and listen to everyone's sob story and be a therapist and then navigate their recovery. So I have ways to work up where I can still provide the content. I'll still get on calls if they need it or they really want recovery, John. Um, but it holds me accountable. There's times I probably could have relapsed, but I knew I was being there for a lot of people. And it's helped me be like, you got to stay sober for other people. And I didn't feel like doing it for myself. Um, and yeah, it's opened a lot of doors for me to be able to be of service and be successful.
So it's become almost a part of your recovery.
In a weird way, I try not to let it, but
Yeah.
it has. And it's been a navigation thing with mentors and sponsors and consultants for business of how to keep them separate, but they are connected, because I've always been scared that, like, when they were going to shut down TikTok, I was very big with my 12 steps and that, because I was like, which I don't base if I got rich, I would shut down TikTok and let someone just post on there for me to inspire people. Now I do it for, to really save lives, but I would be more private probably down the road. Because my sobriety inside is all that matters. I wouldn't want to feel like, oh, I lost my sobriety because I lost TikTok. So I still make sure I stay very connected privately to my own sobriety.
I understand that. That's been my experience. And I think it's interesting because some people that have a more dogmatic approach to recovery have made criticisms to like what I'm working on here and my curiosity in the space, and more so what really comes to me through these conversations is God shots,
Mm,
right?
mhm,
I get God shots. I'm enriching my recovery and knowing that I don't know everything, right?
mhm,
That strategically my motives are clean. I know how I'm navigating my recovery, but also I'm genuinely here because I'm not like trying to funnel someone to a rehab or
mhm,
anything. And if that were ever to be the case, I would do my due diligence and actually like show up and understand, talk with clients, and really see, is this something that I want to put my name on, because my recovery means that much. And I would never want to carry the weight of directing someone or providing advice that leads them down a path that's not truly enriching, right? That
mhm,
I wouldn't do for myself,
mhm.
right? And so, what are some of the byproducts of Recovery John? Like, what happened to you once you started posting? Because I understand the timeline, and this is a little early in recovery, but this has grown into something that's been successful, and
Mhm.
you've also grown and become successful in your own regard.
Yeah. I mean, it's grown in multiple ways. So I have the school community. I realized that there was such a demographic that had no insurance, had no understanding of AA, hadn't. There's people that hit me up there like from mid Kansas, and they're like, they're not an AA meeting within 20 miles, which is crazy for me. Um, so created a school community, and it's only $15 a month. Takes it to run it, but obviously anyone could handle a pack of cigarettes a month or a drink a month, and it gives you, community and all the exercises I've done and I've done with coaching with people that's gotten people sober and gotten me. It's literally the work I've done to get me here today. Um, so that's cool. I mean, I'm also partnered in 90210 Recovery in California, and we're growing out a lot of things. I'm looking to open a sober home here in Connecticut at home. and hopefully a rehab. But Connecticut makes it really hard, even though they have approved me. It then takes a million or two. So I'm working on that. But yeah, it was how do I navigate? At first, it was like, cool, I'm just inspiring anyone. Then I was like, everyone would come back with all these relapse stories. Like, well, I'm not really helping anyone. Like, it's cool. I inspire them. I have this, like, how do I get them that life? So that's where I got in with the treatment center that I believe in. You know what I mean? It's tailored exactly to what got me sober, to the one-on-one care, the deep dive into sobriety, and most importantly, nailing home where everyone relapses. Like, any rehab will get you sober if you want it. What are you going to do to stay sober when you get home? That's the focus. Because all these rehabs I'd go to, and I was lost. I would get home, but all right, I guess I'll go back to the bar. Like, I didn't even know where to start. Like, I heard about this AA thing. I don't know how to get there. I'm going to the bar. So we really nail home, like, when you go home now, how do you stay sober? We don't care about you getting sober. Anyone can get sober. How do you stay sober? So it's awesome to be a part of that. Can't wait to see how that grows. We also have mental health and a lot of other things opening out. And yeah, the book, and just grateful, man. Just out here, just trying to help as much as I can.
Absolutely. For someone that enters 90210 or any rehab, have you seen a standard blueprint of success for an individual that doesn't want to go to a 12-step meeting, whether that's SA, GA, NA, CA, whatever 20 12-step programs there are? Have
Mhm.
you seen something that's been effective for those individuals? And if you have, is that why you've started doing what you're doing on a personal development basis?
Absolutely. So when I got sober, I was very one-minded. Has to be AA. If it's not AA, NA, or 12-step, you're not getting sober because it's what works. I found today it's true. It 100%, if you do it, it will work. But not everyone does it or feels good doing it. So recovery coaching has been big. I didn't even know it was a thing. Got into that. Seen other people, great recovery coaches as well. And some people love that, just that one-on-one care. Like I said, there is so much more of just your habits, who you hang out, things to work through, fitness. Um, that works. I don't know much about Celebrate Recovery or Smart Recovery. Heard great things about it. There's people that talk to me on TikTok that they're sober through it. So I believe there's a lot. And even with us, we're very open with, like, we're not an AA rehab or NA rehab, but these are your options. Pick one and run with that shit. So it's anything like that. And I mean, now, shit, there's these communities since COVID on TikTok and Instagram that are just nothing. They're just sober meetings. And there's people with years. I mean, I was on one with Jersey Jerry for a while that he made, friends of Jerry. And that wasn't like they read an AA thing, but it wasn't AA or NA. It was just sober support. And that was like a family for like 3 years.
I see a lot of rehabs and all they talk about is 12-step, 12-step, 12-step.
Mm.
I understand that the 12-step community works. In fact, Dr. Kelly up at Harvard has done the most comprehensive research on the 12-step community.
Mm.
And the data shows just as much success as therapy.
Mm.
But what if you took 12-step therapy, fitness, all these other aspects that are really important to you on a purely human basis, and put those into action, right? Like, I'm just looking at this, and it's logical to think that if I could stack 12-step, smart recovery, whatever it is, I could stack therapy, I could stack, personal development, I could stack fitness. I'm only assuming that the statistical probabilities of me staying sober is greater.
Mm.
Do you think community is absolutely imperative to an individual that's trying to stay sober? Or do you think someone can just live on an island and go to therapy and stay sober?
The right answer, I should say, is that anyone can get sober any way that works for them. Through tens of thousands of cases I worked through a year in myself, it doesn't work alone. You wouldn't want an addict making their own decisions. I think that's what saved my life, is to tell people, I think I'm gonna date this person, and be like, bro, I'm gonna go be a bartender 20 days sober. Like, dude, you know, so it helps. And I think for moments like my brother, like life is gonna punch you square in the face sometimes. The first thing I did was text my group chat on my 12-step guys and say, "Yo, my brother killed himself last night. I'm not gonna be able to make it without you guys. I need you to be there for me." And they helped save my life. Could you? Sure. Again, I think, like you said, it all comes down to that question: how free do you want to be? You know, do you want to be miserable on an island alone, trying to go through therapy? You want a bunch of people you could relate to and lean on, and they can hold you accountable, and you could be strong. Um, so, think it's always a question of. I used to force people. Now I ask them, well, how free do you want to be, or do you feel like that's going to make you your best self? You know.
When someone calls Recovery John,
Mhm.
what happens?
First, we do like an intake almost, like you know, because I've become some open minded. Just because you want help doesn't mean you need detox or rehab. Doesn't mean you need AA. Doesn't mean whatever. So it's a trying to understand people's situation and walk them through, which I'm open about. It's between me, a doctor, and addiction counselor. The best option. What you want to do, follow your heart. But through the ton of experience I have, which has been successful with everyone that has wanted it, we try to figure out, you know, where you at, what are your resources, what's your addiction look like, and what's going to work for you. And you know, no harm, no foul. Half of it's just they're happy to have someone's listening. Almost every, I'd say 60 to 70% of calls, we're the first person these people are telling they're an addict to. So it's a very fragile situation to make them feel supported, comfortable, and at least navigated and know that there's resources out there.
If you were to sit down with an individual that, for instance, just came out of 90210 recovery,
Mhm.
what's a couple pieces of advice that you would share with them?
Change everything, get uncomfortable, and probably do the exact fucking opposite that you think you should do.
The George Costanza.
Yep. There was a guy. Well, I remember one of my first detox in Miami. It was this big tatted dude. He had Brooklyn across his neck, this big black dude. He looked at me, he goes, "Is this your first one?" I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "You're only 24, man. And you're already here?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Want to stay sober forever?" I said, "That'd be cool." He said, "Cool. Every time you have a choice to make, do the exact fucking opposite that you think you did, and you will never end up here again." And you know, it's that mix of humbling and open-mindedness that will get you far. And if you look at anyone successful, even in business, they take advice, they're open, they ask questions, you know.
I heard this quote in recovery. If you want to piss off an addict, tell him the truth.
Yeah.
How do you tell addicts the truth, but also stay connected with them?
It's a very fine line. I've been learning the last 4 or 5 years. Addicts don't, like you said, they don't want the truth, and that they want to make the decision themselves. Even in sales, they teach you to let the person make the decision for themselves. So give them 2 nuggets and let them connect them together. So a lot of times I ask questions and it gives me them the answer they need to, so they'll do what I want them to do. Like if I know they need to go to some type of meeting or therapy, but I don't want to talk to a therapist. It's like, okay, well, have you figured this out on your own? Like, well, no. Okay, so where do you see that happening in the future? Oh, all right, yeah, I probably won't. I just wait. I'm like, all right, I'll go see a therapist or whatever it could be. But it's letting them figure it out on their own and realizing that I'm not forcing. You don't. I'm very, the way I talk to people is rough. It is very rough. Because that worked for me a lot. Everyone in your life is telling you. I tell people I don't give a fuck. Go shoot up again and die. I mean, my life is good. I care. I do care. It's not that I don't give a, but like I know I can't control you. So don't do it. Go get high. I don't care. Like, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh yeah, this guy's not forcing me." I'm like, "No, I promise you, you'll be happy and sober in a year, or you could be high and you do what you want. I got to worry about my sobriety."
I think speaking to people candidly, saying what you mean, but learning not how to say it mean
Exactly.
is really what people need in recovery, whether it's through a therapist, 12-step community, Recovery John, whatever the design of it is
Mm,
you just need someone to be honest with you.
yeah.
If someone is sober 30 days, what is one action, not feeling, but an action that you would suggest they take within the next 30 days?
Get outside their comfort zone. Have fun. I think the 30 days is and 90 days is so serious. But we talked about, like, I play softball, even slowly going on dates. I was single, just learning myself. I don't think I knew who I was sober or who I was, period. You know what I mean? I knew who I was high. So there's something interesting about getting outside of your comfort zone and realizing, like, okay, there's a lot serious with rehab and 12 steps and therapy, but there's also a lot of exploring to do. You know, I started hiking a lot during COVID, just be getting out there and living.
10 years from now, what does investing in sobriety or living an elevated path of life look like for Jon?
Hopefully a family. I think that's a fruit of the labor. I've come to respect a lot more. I didn't want that. I've been single bachelor, just grinding, creating content for years. Things I've seen recently, my uncle passing, things like that, it's really built me. And now that I have a lot built, it'd be nice to share with. And I've always wanted to have, like, kids, and a partner. Being able to help a lot of people still, and being able to also enjoy the fruits of the labor of life, and, you know, have the time to be with family, to travel, and continue to grow. I have certain plans and dreams. Like I said, a sober house here, a rehab in Connecticut that's a little bit more futuristic and higher level of care, and continuing to keep it really simple of staying sober one day at a time and investing in myself.
Jon Mendonca, thank you for joining me today, brother.
Thanks.
I genuinely enjoyed the conversation. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It has not only enriched my recovery, I hope it enriches the process of seeking recovery for the listeners as well. For those of you that are listening, please check out Jon Mendonca's TikTok, his Instagram, The Elevated Path, Recovery Jon on TikTok. We will put everything in the bio. Thank you for joining me. Make it a great day.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, brother.